What's up everyone, Adam from FWCI Collector's Edition, and today I'm going to review the Marvel Legends Strange Tales Blackheart Build-A-Figure wave. Now I've been patiently waiting for this wave and I've been very excited to get it. I pre-ordered it as soon as I saw that it was coming out. I just love the variety and the supernatural element and kind of the supernatural theme of this wave specifically. Even though these characters are all from different parts of the, Marvel storytelling universe, it still looks amazing together. They look like they could be a team, and I'm here for all of it. So I'm going to review each of these figures, and then at the end, I will review the Blackheart Build-A-Figure as well. Now, if I'm not up to 1,000 subscribers, and even if I am, please subscribe, because that is how the channel is going to thrive and go forward, and there will be stranger tales to be told in the future. But let's start with Moonight. He looks pretty good. I like the gold accents that we've got on the gauntlets and around the legs and on the belt as well. It matches the unk quite good as well, and he also comes with some fisted hands that have those little holes in them so that you can put those annoying little moon-shaped toenail clippings in his fist, which I really don't like that accessory. We always get it with Moonight, and I'm just not here for it. But the unk, on the other hand, that's a new one, and I really like that they've included that. Gives him a lot more of an Egyptian aesthetic. He has butterfly joints, he's got a thigh cut, he's got a boot cut, he's got nice little ankle articulation as you would expect with Marvel Legends. Plenty of articulation at the waist. The head, not so much. Really restricted by the cape, and to be honest, I'm not a huge fan of this cape. I find it weighs down the back. It's not long enough to be like supportive unless you've got him in like a really like sort of significant sort of action pose or something like that. Oopsie daisy. Then you can kind of make the cape work for you sometimes. It looks like it should be able to support things a little bit better, but it really doesn't work that well. So I'm pretty disappointed with that cape, if I'm being honest. The paintwork on it, though, is, it's pretty basic. It's mostly white, bit of black in there. That's nice and clean, but I really like the gold effect and the detail that they've put on the gauntlets. The gauntlets especially look very detailed. So it's a very nice looking figure, but articulation-wise, it seems like a bit of a waste to give him all that articulation because you can't really stand him up or put him in any decent kind of poses without the cape being a problem. And even if you try and put him on a flight stand, even though this one, goes quite far back, it just doesn't quite... Well, that looks okay, I guess. He's on that a little bit sideways, though, but I found putting him on other flight stands, it upsets the cape, and it unplugs the cape, and that affects this scarf part that goes around the neck. Even just putting him back there, I have to kind of lean him up against the diorama. Shout out to Payaso Dioramas as well for all that. Alright, next up, let's have a look at Brother Voodoo. And this is another figure that I was very excited for. I love the look on it. I think it looks great. The only issue is it is completely inhibited with the articulation again with this big rubber cloak that we've got. And the cloak isn't too thick and heavy, but it just makes any kind of natural articulation with this particular arm here, it just makes it not really work. You can't do a great deal with it. You can have it sticking out like that, and that's about it. And, that's very limiting. So I'm pretty disappointed with this figure, to be honest, but it looks great. And I think just having him in a very stoic kind of pose is the best way to like put this on display because he does look good. The paint on it is fantastic. The ankles are a little bit but the paint on it looks really good. I like the accessories that it comes with. It's just a shame that there aren't more posing possibilities with that particular character and that figure, and it's a little bit disappointing. In terms of articulation, he doesn't have any butterfly joints or, any sort of real interesting articulation to note. It's all pretty basic stuff. I don't know if this is the quote-unquote Bucky cap body. I hear people say that. I feel like it might be. But yeah, unfortunate outcome for a very good looking figure. Next up, let's talk about Bloodstorm. So she is very, very, very basic. These legs I find to be incredibly gummy, but even so, the nice big boots that she's got are, you know, a good way to get a decent foundation. But spoilers for the Tarantino test coming up later on. But she looks great. She comes with some storm hands, she comes with some vampire hands, and she comes with 2 different head sculpts. Both of them look pretty good, and I like this figure, even though it's pretty basic and it's, you know, single jointed elbows, it's pinned legs, you know, there's a lot of fault about this figure, I guess, but I like that character. I like the way it looks. I like some of the details that we've got. The paint on it is great, even though the articulation really suffers from the old parts that they're using. For a character like Bloodstorm, I'm totally fine with that. In terms of posing her, I really kind of like, oopsie daisy, in terms of posing her, I really like this pose with her arms like back a little bit. It really feels like the only way to get like a good menacing pose with those vampire hands. Just with the single jointed elbows, it was a little bit difficult to get her in anything that, you know, really looked sort of active and agile, but arms back, I reckon that's your go. Alright, next up is the Mother of Demons, Lilith, and I definitely put her on the flight stand because very difficult to get her to stand. That seems to be a common thread throughout most of this wave, if I'm being honest, which is a part of the disappointing outcome that we got with this. But Lilith looks fantastic. I've been loving the Midnight Suns video game where Lilith is the main you know, big bad villain. Looking at this figure, the paintwork on it is great. All the fishnet stuff looks great. I love the color. I love that green, that kind of like toxic green that we've got on the back there. Whatever the hell is going on with her hair, but the fact that they were able to make that into an action figure is very impressive to me. So I'm pretty happy with the way this figure sort of looks. Very difficult to get it to stand up because this cape thing on the back, it just weighs the back of it down, and it's very, very hard to get her to stand up with it. Can I even get it to stand up at all? Hence the flight stand. Very, very difficult to get Lilith to stand up. But like I say, the paint on it is great. The articulation is fairly basic for a female figure, but I do like the fact that she is all pinless. One thing that, I don't know if this is a problem with my figure or not, but this arm right here doesn't bend. Doesn't bend. It looks like, you know, when you get a pizza and they don't cut the crust properly. That seems to be what I'm dealing with there. You can kind of see it's getting a little bit white there, like the plastic is breaking. So I don't know what the hell's going on with that, but it's definitely a bit of a bummer. Now, one thing I did notice with the paintwork on this one is the white paint around one of her eyes is definitely off balance. So with that paint imperfection and with the issue with the elbow, this is a figure that I'm hoping is going to go on like clearance on Amazon for like 13 bucks one day, because when that happens I will definitely purchase another Lilith. Visually it looks great, it looks like what it's supposed to be, but yeah, it's a bit of a mess if I'm being honest, and it's very unfortunate because it's a character that I was very much looking forward to. Up next is the man himself. Well, he's not man, he's vampire. He's Dracula, and this is apparently accurate to what Dracula looks like in Marvel Comics. I've never seen Dracula depicted like this, but I also don't spend a great deal of time looking up photos of Dracula, so I wouldn't be the person to ask anyway. But I've seen people rave about this figure, and there is an incredible amount of detail on it, but honestly, I'm very disappointed with this figure here. First of all, single jointed elbows, that is absolutely ridiculous, especially when you've got somebody with a sword. The wrists have the up and down hinge instead of the side to side hinge, so that at least complements the whole sword situation that he's got going on there. But word to the wise, all these, see how spiky these red things look? Well, heads up, they are spiky. They're incredibly sharp, and it actually makes posing this figure a little bit of a pain in the backside because it just kind of hurts your fingers because these things are so sharp. So he comes with a couple of head scans. You know, they're both pretty good. The hair articulation, I think, is a nice touch. I think that really adds a lot of character to the figure. He comes with a couple of fisted hands and then like a grabbing hand and then a sword hand. I'm not happy with this figure. I'm really not. It doesn't look as good as I was hoping. The articulation isn't as good as I was hoping. And it just feels like a lot of detail went into this, and then you can't really do much with it because the articulation is a little bit off. It's got this cloak thing on the back, again, that suffers that same Marvel Legends issue in terms of the figures being very heavy on the back. Which is a shame again, because Dracula's a great character. He still will look good on a shelf, don't get me wrong. If you're into Dracula and this is what you want, then you're going to love this because he looks great. But for me, I wanted something a little bit more dynamic, and overall, I'm not that impressed with this figure here. Next, we've got Wolverine, the Wolverine Ghost Rider version here. And, he looks great. The paintwork on the skull is good. We've got a bit of damage on there. The fire is nice and see-through. The flames on the claws look absolutely amazing. So, pretty happy with this one here. But as soon as I got this, the first thing I went and did was swapped out the body for this. So this is the body that came with the Lilandra 2-pack, and there's not much difference to it, but the this kind of like grey on the arms instead of the flesh color, I just feel like it looks a little bit more supernatural and, less human-like, which I feel like is perfect for this figure right here. And now it turns out I actually own a Wolverine with a brown suit, which has just been cobbled together with parts from various other Wolverines that I've got. But this is the difference between these two. The 2-pack has the red belt, the Wolverine has the black belt with the red X, and it looks like Wolverine's a little bit darker as well. But I'm very happy with how this one looks, especially with the upgraded body. Comes with a couple of accessories, some non-claw hands. I mean, I don't know why you would want those with this one because it looks so good. But for a basic Wolverine figure that's just had a little bit of extra, accessories created for it, I think they've done a great job of making this into its own thing, and I love this. And last but not least, my favorite figure from the entire wave, this Damien Hellstrom. Is it Damien Diamond or Damon? Because I've heard it pronounced every single way. I'm calling him Damien because he looks like the son of the devil, if I've ever seen one. Look at this guy. So the articulation on this is absolutely insane. This is like Spider-Man level articulation with the butterfly joints. No toe articulation, luckily, because, he's got bare feet. That would probably look a bit weird. His costume is obviously very basic. You've just got some golden gauntlets, golden belt, brown pants, and then his trident. But the articulation and that face scan they just make this figure perfect. It looks amazing. There are so many options in terms of posing. Again, those butterfly joints, all that articulation in the midsection, which he's got that big ab crunch that, really gives you a lot of options. But if you look at how this figure looks in an action pose with the face and everything, it just screams personality. It definitely outshines all the rest, and it's definitely the most minimal in terms of what this character is wearing and stuff like that. But this figure absolutely slaps. I did not expect this to be my favorite of the wave, and I'm just blown away by it. We've got the pentagram on the chest now. I'm pretty new to Marvel Legends. I've only been collecting for about 5 years. I hear that that's a pretty big deal, and Hasbro have been a little bit funny about putting pentagrams on their characters in the past. So I'm very happy that they've done it in this one that I've bought, because it really adds to the character. It makes him look even more like creepy and demonic. He comes with a couple of fists as well, but this is a 10 out of 10 figure. This is the one from the wave that I would recommend going out of your way to find. If you have a Hell Shelf in your Marvel Legends collection, he is going to be a must-have, so go check him out. And before we do the Tarantino test, let's have a look at the Builder-Figure from this wave, and his name is Blackheart. Now, I know that he is Mephisto's son, and there was a version of him in the Ghost Rider movie, and I know a little bit about his hell powers and everything like that, but I'm not a huge fan of this Builder-Figure. It looks good, and again, he's got some very sharp, pointy spikes on him, similar to what Dracula has, but I just feel like it's hard to get this thing in a good pose. I really do. Like, you've got the tail that should help, but it doesn't really. You got a little bit like that, I guess. His feet are very confusing because it's these kind of feet where you can't really stand him on his toes because all the weight is at the back, so you have to really rely on that tail that, again, is kind of limited in terms of the articulation. So it's a little bit difficult to get him looking okay. I guess that looks alright like that if you kind of zoom back a little bit, but overall, he's just a very awkward figure. Looks great. Maybe get him on some sort of flight stand that sits down low so you can get him in a sort of creeping sort of pose, I guess. I don't know if he kneels or not, but, you know, that was kind of the only luck that I had getting him in a pose that I was personally happy with. The feet really let this figure down. So that's the Blackheart Build-A-Figure. I'm a little bit disappointed with it, but I hope if you do want this and you get it, that you are able to make more of it than I can. It's a good figure. It's got, you know, butterfly joints. It's got great articulation in the waist. It's just that the weight from the hair, and then the tail is a little bit tricky to get it to balance every single pose that you might want. And the feet are confusing. Oh, no. All right. That means it must be time for the Tarantino test.
Tarantino test.
So, by the way, I think I may have just cracked the code on this Blackheart pose. It's a very crouchy kind of pose, but I don't know, I'm probably more happy with this than I am with anything else that I've managed to try and get him in. So maybe I'll retract on all of the shade that I'm throwing at Blackheart. But this is the Tarantino test. This is the part of the video where I talk about the feet of the action figure, and I'll let you guys know if it's got a good foundation for posing, because in my personal opinion, that's the most important thing. When it comes to figures, you want to get it out the box, you want to pose it, you want to be dynamic with it, you want it to look good. Can't do that if the feet are terrible. And there's a little bit to talk about in this video, so let's jump into it. First of all, the Blackheart Build-A-Figure, very, very, very tricky, and I'd say it fails the Tarantino test just because it's so top-heavy with that head, and it's kind of hit and miss as to whether or not the tail is going to be of any use to you in terms of getting a nice balance going. So that does not pass the Tarantino test at all. Sorry, Blackheart. Damien Hellstrom, he does. That's a thumbs up. His feet are fantastic, and it's not just because they are exposed, it is because they stand that figure up beautifully. Nice tight joints, and the rest of the figure complements the feet as well because, you know, they're not too heavy for him to get in all sorts of dynamic poses. Like I say, much like a Spider-Man figure. Damien Hellstrom, thumbs up. Let's have a look at Wolverine. I mean, he gets a thumbs up because he's got these tried and true Wolverine feet. I do wish they would maybe upgrade that a little bit, but you can always get Wolverine into a good pose, so thumbs up on Wolverine. Bloodstorm, I'm going to give this a thumbs down, even though she has pretty decent, like, nice big boots, which definitely help salvage some kind of posability for this figure. The legs are pretty bad, and this figure doesn't usually stay in very good poses. Like, I'm pretty happy with this one here, so I don't know, maybe it has a sweet spot that I'm just yet to find, but overall, Quentin is giving this one a thumbs down. Moonight, now typical Marvel Legends feat, but again, this cape is ruining it for everybody. That is why I am giving this a thumbs down as well. I just don't feel like I can get him in good action poses. Like, even this one here, I'm pretty happy with that. But I feel like that's about the extent that you can get this figure. So what's the point of having these butterfly joints and all that kind of stuff if the figure is going to be so limited by this cape? So Moon Knight, unfortunately, gets a thumbs down as well. Love the unk, though. Brother Voodoo, another thumbs down. For some reason, the ankles on this are very, very light. It's got a very heavy upper body, again, because of this plastic cloak. It just doesn't balance well with the cloak. It seems to really throw everything off. So again, I don't know if there's some sort of sweet spot with this one, but this figure was very disappointing because I was really excited for it. I might have to try and see if I can wangle some kind of soft goods cloak for this one here, because I know that's the Eye of Agamotto, and this is, I think, technically Dr. Voodoo, but very disappointed with the articulation on this one in terms of getting anything other than your standard standing pose. Dracula, thumbs down. I don't like these feet at all. They're not absolutely terrible, but I just find that he's so friggin' wobbly. Like, it may not even be the feet's problem, and the Tarantino test isn't always just about the feet. It's about getting a balance, and you have to balance them on the feet, so that's kind of the measuring stick that I use. But something about this figure, I don't know if it's just the weight, again, from the cloak, very disappointing, and the lack of articulation really just inhibits your ability to get some really cool poses out of this. And last but not least, Lilith. I mean, it tears me apart to say this, but I'm going to have to give this a thumbs down as well. You can get it in these moments where it stands up perfectly fine, but as soon as you try to get anything other than these very basic rudimentary poses, it just becomes a real pain in the backside with the weight of that dress, cloak, cape, whatever it is on the back, and her hair probably doesn't help as well. And with these female figures, they weigh a lot less, so you've got less sort of weight and foundation to try and keep them in one spot. But Lilith looks great, and I think on a flight stand is definitely the best place to sort of get her. But unfortunately, outside of a basic stance, I think this is a little bit of a fail. And that was a very depressing Tarantino test.
Tarantino test.
But let me know in the comments what you think about the Stranger Tales wave. Did you go and get this one? Were you disappointed with what you got, same as I was? And I still like these figures, I still find homes for them, but I just wish I could do more with them and I could be more expressive with them. That's my main gripe. All of these look fantastic. The new boxes look fantastic as well. Really digging what they're doing with Marvel Legends, but I'm definitely hitting the point where I'm wanting to do more posing and things like that with my figures. And yeah, this wave, other than Damien Hellstrom, really didn't give me much of an option with that. But thanks for checking this video out. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. Help me get to 1,000 subscribers. And as always, everyone, be well, stay safe, look after your figs, ta-ta, and farewell.